Depending on how that goes. So they just got the pick on the tower. I'd probably look to jump to your teammates. And this is why it's really important when you get splatted to be focusing on what else is happening. Keep an eye on like the scenario if your teammates are fighting, because that gives you some information on whether it's clear for you to jump or not to jump. One of your teammates jumped in, and then there's this roller here. So your teammate gets splatted, so I'm probably not jumping. Then roller gets a pick, so now it's like, I'm actually interested potentially in jumping, but I know there's someone else jumping on the tower. While you're spawning in and stuff and your camera's changing, keep an eye on the UI and like where the numbers swing. Because like you just spawned in, that person off tower just got picked, and there's maybe a splat pro left. So worst case, you're jumping into your teammates already in a 2v1. So I would just, you know, at this point, I'm like, let's go. I'm here. I trust you all. Even before you got your jump on, they still got the pick on the pro. So like, even if you start swimming in now, if you see this, I'm jumping in now. Like the game is just happening and you're not a part of it. Your two teammates went down when they were up. They had a 2v1, and while you were swimming in, the rest of their team got to respawn, and that's why they lost the fight. And then you get in and you don't get to participate in the fun. So this was like a potential KO advantage, or like KO opportunity that started because of the play you did on tower before when it was here. And you did the tri-strikes and you got the pick and everything. All that set up this advantageous push, and you didn't get to actually like capitalize on it. At least we can see some builds that gives more context. Alrighty. Flounder makes me cry. Sir, I believe you may have forgotten to switch your Splatfest tee. Someone else forgot theirs as well. All right. Anyways, they have like, they in general have like more mid-range. So you're going to have a harder time approaching them directly. We're looking at VDS, we're looking at Nautilus, we're looking at the Pro. These things are all going to make you cry if you approach them very honestly. Which it looked like in your opening you were going through trenches, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like I think your team can snowball a lot more, and that's going to be enabled by you and the Dapples being able to get in. But the problem is you have to be able to get in. Your Dapples has an easier time rolling in, but yeah, you'll have to be creative with the map layout itself to be able to do that. So that's what I'm looking for you to do when it comes to actually like engaging in a lot of these fights. But this map mode in general is just super snowbally. Like it's pretty common to see both teams get underneath like 40 or 30 for like a push, or even into the 20s. Your team's going to feed off a lot of momentum. You have to be careful not to get frustrated if your team gets splatted and y'all, you know, are losing the paint advantage and everything. So sometimes you have to slow it down potentially, but we'll see how this goes overall. But that's kind of what I'm seeing at a high level here. And again, I like the way that you're approaching it. If you approach them honestly up off like top mid, you might get outranged. So this is good. Anyways, opening really good. Use the side walls to find an opportunity to surprise the enemy team and punish them for their slow fire rate because of their range. So I love this. Maybe could have been a little bit cleaner, but I love this. In this situation, you'll have a massive advantage. I would say having 2-player advantage or more is like massive, and especially 3v1, and especially if you wipe them. But you know, even in this type of scenario, when you wipe 3 of them and there's only one left, a 3v1, this is when I was going back at the beginning. You and the Dapples are the space creators on your team. Instead of sitting on tower and gaining no space, I want you to be immediately pushing their main ramp. First checkpoint, basically these first 2 checkpoints, you get by holding this entire like main ramp area and you control it. So that's where you need to be anyways. And the faster that you can get there, especially if you can get there faster than the enemy team, it's going to push you in a really, really, really good spot. You're getting to the ramp at the same time or after the enemy team is already there, where you could have been there before and gone for a more sneaky play. Yeah, sometimes we got to be careful about roller. This is a really good continuation play. So the two things I would say here, when you're taking these kinds of engagements, as you get better, you're going to want to get more comfortable with the mechanics of a short range shooter, which is a lot of main strafing, sub strafing in certain cases, but definitely in like these really close range fights. Main strafe, which I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of main strafing, but it's like when you're shooting your weapon, if you go into into squid form and you go like left or right and strafe on this person, on average it's going to make you harder to like hit. You want to try to be as mobile as you can and not just be walking in a straight line. So I do like the fact that you're at least moving left while you're shooting, but yeah, implementing main strafing will definitely make this a little bit cleaner. But like, you have the right idea. It's just getting a little bit more comfortable consistently using those mechanics, which is something we all work on. Longer range targets, backline targets, longer distance. Up close, you can do really tiny strafes, stay really mobile, change directions very fast, and that's a lot of movement that the enemy has to deal with. When this person booyah bombs like this, if you just immediately start shooting them, and then this person starts shooting them, and then this roller here, if y'all all shoot this person at the same time, you're gonna splat them before they actually get the booyah bomb out. So I would say, especially if you're playing a shooter yourself, my general rule, if you have a teammate with you and someone pops booyah bomb in front of you, just shoot them. You kind of have to trust that your teammates are going to shoot with you, but they will. Like, as you get better, they will. So just get into the habit of doing that. Because this tri-strike is too slow and it actually makes you very vulnerable. It's more likely that they throw the bomb at you and you can't move in time. Yeah. But this plays really good. Everything here is really, really good. The mechanics and the strafing and everything, like you said, I think it sounds like you're de-rusting, but it's something you'll get better at. You probably don't need to throw the bomb first. I'd probably just get into a position and just start shooting them. But the idea to, use the tower as bait and going around like here is perfect. And, as you get cleaner with your mechanics, that'll be a very easy pick for you. But because you didn't get the initial pick, you're kind of stuck, so there isn't much you can do after the fact. But the idea was there, so good stuff. That's how you close out a game. You could have potentially jumped there, but it's potentially scary. So I don't mind it too much. So, it's really unfortunate. So this is a good idea. I don't love the execution. So like at this point, you're really close to your special. You can paint this. You can probably paint underneath this ledge. You can paint over here. There's a lot of spots where you can get your special really fast. And if I'm you, I would probably look to get my special before I start approaching on the tower. This pick's fine. If you're already committing to this play, then I don't want you to use tri-strike. You end up getting 2 more with the tri-strike, but again, it's more about the quality of player than the quality of the decision. And there's an option to use the tri-strike and an option not to use the tri-strike. And you initially chose the option not to use tri-strike, but then you ended up using it after, which you didn't get punished for here, but you will get punished for in the future. So depending on how that goes, so they just got the pick on the tower. I'd probably look to jump to your teammates. And this is why it's really important when you get splatted to be focusing on what else is happening. Keep an eye on like the scenario if your teammates are fighting, because that gives you some information on whether it's clear for you to jump or not to jump. One of your teammates jumped in and then there's this roller here. So your teammate gets splatted, so I'm probably not jumping. Then roller gets a pick, so now it's like, I'm actually interested potentially in jumping, but I know there's someone else jumping on the tower. While you're spawning in and stuff and your camera's changing, keep an eye on the UI and like where the numbers swing. Because like you just spawned in, that person off tower just got picked, and there's maybe a splat pro left. So worst case, you're jumping into your teammates already in a 2v1. So I would just, you know, at this point, I'm like, let's go. I'm here. I trust you all. Even before you got your jump on, they still got the pick on the pro. So like, even if you start swimming in now, if you see this, I'm jumping in now. Like, the game is just happening and you're not a part of it. Your two teammates went down when they were up. They had a 2v1, and while you were swimming in, the rest of their team got to respawn, and that's why they lost the fight. And then you get in and you don't get to participate in the fun. So this was like a potential KO advantage, or like KO opportunity that started because of the play you did on tower before when it was here. And you did the tri-strikes and you got the pick and everything. All that set up this advantageous push, and you didn't get to actually like capitalize on it. So now when you're in this spot, I'm thinking about, and this is the spot, like y'all were advantage for so long. This is the nice thing about playing defense, is that you have your entire base to paint. I'm sure this thing underneath here is not painted either, like the little platform, but all of this is free special. Look to have your tri-strike ready so that when tower gets to this checkpoint, your team is able to engage and stop the tower at the second checkpoint with your tri-strike. When you have a special that's really good in regards to the objective, which, you know, crab, always good, booyah, always good, tri-strike situationally good, but in TC it's very, very good. You need to understand when it's important to use it. I do like that you're taking the walls if you are not, like if you're not going to play around your special. The only thing that I would say is like going up this wall directly is a little bit scary because tower is going to be directly underneath you. And even if they weren't looking for you initially, they might look for you now. So the idea is okay, but I'd probably use this wall instead, because their attention is going to be facing forward and not to the right side. So it's a potential opportunity for you to get like a sneakier jump on them. You also have this paint here, so you could wait for the tower to get past this checkpoint and just use this paint to go over top. You can figure out the information as you get there, but this play is a little bit risky, and it's extra risky that your roller's doing the same thing. So I would still go for the special play where you paint your base, get your special, use your special to help push you instead of just climbing up the wall and hoping that you outplay them. But if you are going to go for that second option, I think there's ways you can do it a little bit better. But I do like the bomb. Good stop. Again, this is a spot where I think you could be taking space. You saw the wipeout. This person's all the way back here. They're waving to you from their spawn. I wouldn't worry about painting all this stuff unless you had a tri-strike play in mind. I would automatically start getting to like their main ramp. In this spot with 2 minutes left, I would look to play a little bit safer. You have a big lead. I would try to work with your team a little bit more. If your team was losing and you were looking for kind of like a big play potential, you can potentially look to like go for these sneaky plays. But again, time and place, and when you have a lead, you have lead and you have control, because like your team, you just wipe them and you have full control of mid, or you should if you took the space. But going for this risky play is like high risk and very low reward, because you have to push past 10 in order for this to be worthwhile. And there's plenty of time left, so the enemy team is not in a desperate spot where they need to rush the tower. Again, I like the idea and I like the routing, but time and place. Like the bomb on the tower, like the follow-up. Y'all got the splat, so we're good. So we don't really have a play in mind here. And the reason that I don't like that you didn't have a play in mind is that your teammates end up getting splatted while all of this happens. they were fighting, these two were fighting a 2v3 while you were using your special because they weren't, there was no plan for them. But like your roller died before you got any value. But you come back around and clean it up. The decision to get on tower and the decision to sit on tower feels very autopilot-y from you. And I want this to be a thoughtful decision. I think there might potentially be better decisions. I think it's a fine decision, truthfully. Like I think it's fine. Not great, fine. But I don't think that you made a decision here. I think you just did because, oh, I just get on tower because tower's available. And I don't want you to, that's a bad habit to develop. Autopilot decision, yeah. But the play after, like the bomb was very, very thoughtful, and the shooting and sharking is definitely thoughtful. I do like the jump here because you have an advantage. This is awesome. And I think you were looking specifically at like where your teammates were. Yeah, I like that you jumped here. Nice. It's like you're close to a KO. In this spot, super minor, but I would focus on the pro instead of getting on tower. Just because there's a chance if this pro's laser beaming, you're not, and then you jump on tower after, they could get 2, and there's a chance that y'all don't actually KO here. So like this is good. Right here, I'm swimming up to this edge and I'm firing at this person. And if they end up switching targets and they get the pick onto your knot, it's okay because you clean them up and then you can get back on tower. When you have a big objective lead, it's better for you to focus on splatting than the objective points. The biggest things here, take space, especially if you're playing a fast-paced weapon that can take space. On average, you're like in most games, and especially in this game, like it's okay for you to be on tower. Like it's always okay for you to be on tower as T-Tech, but it's not always going to be optimal. When y'all had like the 3v1, I'd much rather you like already be here and painting this versus like sitting on tower and then your whole team is like congested and the enemy team gets a bunch of space for free. I would say for you, on average, look to jump more. And I think this makes sense for you because like you're already thoughtful. You're looking at the mini map. You're making an assessment of the situation in front of you before you jump. I can very clearly see that in your gameplay. We can jump in more than we think we can because there's a lot of time you spent swimming in when there was fights happening that were in your team's favor on the enemy map. And because you swam in instead of jumping, your team actually had a disadvantage. And the last thing I'll say is paint base. And what I mean by paint base, this can be an always time, but especially on defense. So especially on defense, when you're spawning in, so like if the enemy team, like let's say they just got on tower and they've moved it to like about here, for most of the match, because your team had a lot of control, like this was the amount of paint that you all had. And like all of this is open. All of this is open. This thing's open over here. There's a lot of area for you to be able to take paint. And as a T-Tech, you can get your special really, really, really fast. So look for those areas to take paint and play around your special, especially on tower control. Tri-Strike is really good and it can help you get picks. I think when you went aggressive, I think the way you played it was pretty good, but the better play, even with perfect mechanics, playing a little bit safer, getting your specials and throwing them on tower with your team is a lot better. I actually don't order these in priority, but if I was, I'd say this is like 4. This is 4. This is 2. This is 2, and then this is 3, which is move in fights. So during fights, look to move. When you're in a fight, so when you're sitting here and not was sitting here and they were charging up, you got a couple of shots. You want to look to move perpendicular like we were saying, and then like quick move and then keep shooting again. After you got the pick and you moved on to the next person, your movement was really nice, but I want to see that movement during the fight, which again, it's hard to do when you're autopiloting. So try to be more thoughtful just while you're playing. because autopilot is tough. And if you're not proactive, stopping the autopilot, it's gonna take over. Overall, solid stuff, solid stuff. I can definitely feel the de-rusting as a player. Because there's a lot, like when I was going over like that stat chart or whatever, your stats in certain areas are like way higher than your rank reflects. So I think you're big chilling. 21, nice. So anyways, hope that helps. What's the next VOD? Next VOD is me playing Turf War.